Let me be very specific here with what I'm saying. I'm saying that men are the grantors of all rights to women, and that necessarily is always going to be true. Always, everywhere. And it is right now, and they can take them away whenever they want, and women have basically zero recourse except to reapply to men to get those rights again.
Right. Well, even if we were to accept that as true, the point I'm making is there is
do you accept it as true?
Sorry?
Do you accept it as true?
I don't know if I entirely agree with that. To some extent, I agree, but I don't entirely agree with it. But
well, which part do you disagree with of that descriptor?
There's a level of truth to it, but there's a level of distruth. Like, women do have an ability to fight for their rights. Like, you will see, like, I mean, look at some of the protests that are happening in Europe and Ukraine and Russia.
Oh yeah, all those women who are in the street blowing shit up. Come on, man. No, it's all men for the most part. I would say like 98% is men over there blowing shit up. Come on,
80%.
Dude.
We could go with 80%, but
it's again, overwhelmingly men.
It is overwhelmingly men, but women are also involved in this too. But the big point here is you have an interest in protecting women and children and, say, people who have a lack of power in society. So you wouldn't want, children absolutely have a lack of power in society.
Yeah. So, but that doesn't mean you're specifically only talking about children as having a lack of power.
Well, they're like disabled people. I'm sure you don't want them to get mistreated or abused. Like,
yeah, that's correct. I think that men have a virtuous duty to not do that. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So if you don't include these people in the political and legal system, that opens them up to far more abuse. Like, there's a reason why, by the way, there's a reason why in a lot of these police precincts, there's a goal to have a certain amount of female officers. It prevents female suspects from getting abused and taken advantage of.
It sure doesn't prevent those female officers from getting their asses kicked by male suspects very much, does it?
Well, again, you can arrange duties in a way that's beneficial for everybody.
Right. So what you have to do is you have to give them lighter duties, because if they run into men, they can't fucking deal with it nearly as well. And men are far better equipped to be cops. Just admit that that's true.
That is true.
Of course. And they're better equipped to be soldiers. They're better equipped for violence. They're better equipped.
Wait. That's an interesting point you make. Yes, men are more well equipped to commit violence, and they're also much more sexually motivated. The chances of a male officer sexually abusing a female suspect are much greater than a female officer sexually abusing a suspect.
Yeah, I can see that that's true, but I think it's beside the point. A cop's job is to enforce law, and it's going to be necessary that you have males do that. If you had a female police force, it'd be a joke. But if you had an all-male police force, it wouldn't be.
Well, again, it's clearly in the best interest of everybody to have a certain amount of female officers at least performing certain duties.
Well, okay, fair enough. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't mean
I'm not saying women should do absolutely everything that a male officer does. I think there are certain situations where you have very dangerous suspects where you would require a larger, more intimidating man. Sure. Okay, but like there are
what situation would be better if you were dealing with any disgruntled man, whether he was 5'1" and drunk or 6'6" and drunk, that you wouldn't want to have a male officer on the scene rather than the female?
Well, sure, but you would prefer to have a female officer on scene, say, searching a female suspect,
so that she doesn't accuse the cop of raping her.
Well, this has actually happened, though.
It has. I agree. So that's fine. We can have. Let me just ask you this: if the entire police department was male, it was only allowed to be male, period, and you had another police department that was only allowed to be female, which police department do you think would be better equipped to deal with crime?
Violent crime, men would be
all crime.
Better. Well, I would say for violent crime, men would be better equipped. For non-violent crimes, I think women would be better equipped for the most part.
So which police department do you think would outperform the other one?
It depends, but like
Let's say
we're
all
not
things equal,
we're we're
all
not
things equal, they're both in high crime areas. That's where they're both are. Which one do you think is going to do better, Richard?
like again, I think they would be better at doing certain things. So I think women would probably be better with nonviolent crimes. I think they'd probably be able to talk to
The crimes that
suspects and
people
get
care about
information
the
a little bit.
least, the crimes that people generally care about absolutely the least. Writing
Okay,
tickets, you want meter maids and writing tickets and shit like that. I
well,
mean, come on, man.
well, Andrew, you have to be able to get along with the public, and you do have to be able to get along with suspects. And I've seen female officers be much less combative with
Okay,
suspects.
but men are just fine with
I
social
don't.
skills, especially with
This
other men. So I don't
great,
know.
great.
I just want you to
I,
answer this honestly for me. Which department, all things equal, both in high crime areas, which one do you think is going to perform better? The all male police force or the all female?
I don't know what you consider performing well. Like, if you mean by making more
Solve more
arrests,
crimes.
sorry,
Solve
solving
more crimes and put more suspects in jail.
it would probably be the male force.
Yeah.
But again, that's not the point I'm making. So the point I'm making is you have some vulnerable individuals, the vulnerable individuals in this case being women. With a male, like with an all male police force, if you have men interviewing women who are claiming to have been victims of rape, you're going to see a much higher likelihood of them not being taken seriously. And you can see this in every industry, by the way. This is a big problem in the healthcare industry, where women will report having pain to a male doctor, and male doctors are less likely to take them seriously and give them appropriate diagnoses and medication. This is across all industries. So when you have issues like this that can be systemic, where men just do not take women's issues seriously,
Then I guess they can just vote
you
to make them take them
well
seriously.
well yes,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
want
And
women
so they're gonna
involved.
vote. So they're gonna vote and say
Sorry,
you need to take me seriously and have men
they're
come in
going to
and
have
enforce
to.
my rights.
They're
Have men come
going
in
to
and tell
have
other men they have
to.
to take me seriously.
They're going to have
Big
to,
brain
because
stuff,
you
man.
have to contend with 50% of the population.
We
So
and men
yes.
have always contended with 50% of the population. It hasn't been problematic for us to do ever.
Okay, well, when you're running as an elected official and you have a potential to capture 50% of the votes, that is a
Unless they can't
huge.
vote,
That
then you
is,
don't have to worry
well,
about it.
yes, and that's what I'm arguing for. If you're going to have a huge, you're going to have a huge incentive
Yeah,
to
and then you
appeal to
also
a
end up
female
with
voter base.
disproportionation the other way, right? It's disproportionate the other way. Where when you get into court, for instance, how do you think you would fare if you got a divorce tomorrow? Do you think that you would do better than your wife?
I have no idea.
Or, I mean, what do you think on average? You think your chances are better than hers of walking away with the fairest deal?
Probably,
You
yeah.
think on average that that's true?
I don't know. Like when you're talking, like, okay, by the way, when you're talking about like huge alimony payments, shit like that,
Uh huh.
you're usually talking about really rich people.
Well, no,
When it
I'm not
comes
just talking
to
about rich people. I'm just talking about even dividing up assets when you have lawyers involved. The court favors women overwhelmingly. It disproportionately, in fact. And because men are so benevolent, and we are benevolent, we have gone out of our way to kind of pamper women, to keep them away from all the rough and tumble. We keep them away from the hard shit. We keep them away from that. And so most of our laws favor women to the point that even in the criminal justice system, if it comes to a woman being prosecuted for the exact same crime as a man, the man gets a worse punishment.
yes,
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, so we're clearly benevolent. We're clearly pretty fucking
Well,
benevolent, Richard.
again, it's funny you mentioned that. Do you think a woman is going to be more sympathetic to a female criminal than a man is going to be sympathetic to a female criminal?
Doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, I would imagine a female judge is going to be less sympathetic to a female criminal.
You can imagine that all you want, but it's not demonstrated in our courts.
I don't know if it is. I'd have to look up some of the research on that, but I will agree with you. Female criminals are treated better in the criminal justice system. They do get lower sentencing,
even though they're at the complete mercy of the patriarchy.
Well, yes, but
that means the
again,
patriarchy. That's pretty compelling evidence. The patriarchy is pretty fucking benevolent towards women, Richard.
well, in that case, in that particular case,
What cases
and
aren't
again,
they? They don't log. They don't put up the electrical grid. They don't do the infrastructure. They don't do the auto mechanics. They don't work in the medical fields other than as nurses, but they don't invent most of the technology for that. At what point are you going to look at this and be like, look, men are pretty fucking benevolent?
Doctors.
No, that's not what I said. I said
doctors.
The invention of the equipment in the medical field. Almost all men, almost all engineers for applied science are men. Almost all loggers are men. Your roads are constructed by men. Your infrastructure is constructed by men. Your buildings are constructed by men. Women have very little to do with any of this at all. And they seem to be really fucking benevolent about the fact that they do all of that horrific, brutal fucking work and still give women less punishment for the same crime that men have, because nobody gives a shit about men, including men.